Hey everyone, Clay from Brooklyn, Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Here to talk about the weekly report on the NFC East. You know, I like to do an NFC East weekly report. This is week 7. I want to talk about the games this week. There's only 2 games in the NFC East this week. First of all, Dallas has their bye week, so Dallas isn't playing at all, so we don't have to talk about Dallas. Second of all, we're playing the Eagles. So, yes, the Giants and Eagles are playing against each other at home for us at MetLife Stadium, and I will be at that game. I go to one game a year. This year, that's the game. And it is, of course, the welcome home for Saquon Barkley. I will be wearing my Saquon Barkley Giants shirt. I will be cheering for Saquon. I hope he has a great game. I hope he has 200 scrimmage yards and 4 touchdowns. Of course, I hope the Giants win. I hope we win 31-28. But I'll be rooting for Saquon to have a great game because I think he's awesome, and I'm really disappointed that we let him go. I think it was our fault that he left the team. He really wanted to be here. He was the best thing we had going for us, certainly offensively. And, you know, he was a hard worker. He came here into the league in 2018 as a bad pass blocker. He left here and is now one of the best, if not the best, pass blocking running backs in football. He's always been a great threat with the ball in his hand as a running back. He's also a true matchup nightmare in pass receiving. We didn't utilize him very often and very well in that regard. But linebackers can't cover him. I know we used to call Evan Ingram the matchup nightmare when he was here, but really it was Saquon Barkley. He's the man that has the greatest chance of beating the person assigned to cover him downfield. When's the last time you saw a linebacker 20, 25 yards downfield, stride for stride with Saquon, and he couldn't get open? You haven't, because that's never happened. That's not a thing. So I think he wanted to stay here. I think Joe Shane made a huge mistake not giving him his money. So I'm going to root for him to do well. Of course, I'm rooting for the Giants to win. So that takes care of 2 NFC East teams. And as I said, Dallas has their bye week. The other team is Washington. Washington plays Carolina this week, and Carolina is terrible. Carolina's 1-5, and they're probably not as good as that. They're probably better, worse than their record says they are. They come into the league 32nd in the league in points allowed, and this is a 32-team league, so that is dead last. They have given up almost 34 points a game. Washington, on the other hand, is second in the league in points scored. They're scoring roughly 30 points a game. So when you take the second best scoring team and put them against the 32nd best defensive team, that does not bode well. I expect Washington to score early and often. On the other side of the coin, when Carolina has the ball, they're ranked 28th in the league in scoring. They're averaging 16 points a game. Washington is 22nd in the league in points allowed. They're giving about 22 points a game. And they did just lose their very important defensive tackle, Jonathan Allen, for the rest of the season. So maybe their defense takes a hit. Maybe they're not quite as good defensively as they've been. And they've only been middle of the pack as it is. But again, Carolina's 28th in the league in scoring. So I don't know how much advantage they can take of that situation. By the way, guess who's 29th in the league? Guess who's one spot behind them in scoring? Us. We're averaging 15 points a game to their 16, which is terrible and embarrassing for us. But the fact is, Carolina is not an offensive juggernaut by any means. So even if they score in the 20s, there's a very good chance that they'll lose that game by 10 or more because Washington will probably score in the 30s. So anyway, that's my NFC East report. Washington over Carolina is likely to be the case. We're playing Philly. Certainly, I'm rooting for us to beat Philly. Certainly, I don't have high expectations that will beat Philly because we rarely do. But Philly's no juggernaut this year either, and anything can happen. Of course, I'm concerned that Andrew Thomas, as Mazo mentioned in his breaking news story, Andrew Thomas will be missing this game and maybe even the rest of the season. So that's going to hurt our offense. So our already putrid 15-point-a-game, 29th ranked offense has just lost its best offensive lineman. So who knows what that's going to mean. And Saquon's going to be fired up to come back home and play in front of the Giants fans. So I can't say I expect us to win this game, but obviously I'm rooting for us to win this game. So the NFC East report is those 2 games. Now, every week in the NFC East report, I also do a trivia question. So let me give you the answer to last week's trivia question first. And that question was, which New York Giant has the record for most fumble recoveries all time by a New York Giant? And you might think it was going to be a defensive player. Maybe you thought it was going to be LT or Carl Banks or Harry Carson or George Martin, or if you go back far enough, maybe like Andy Robustelli or Sam Huff or someone like that. But it's not. It's not a defensive player at all. Surprisingly, it is Phil Simms. Yes, the record for most fumble recoveries by a Giant is Phil Simms with 28 fumble recoveries. Now, It's very possible that all 28 of those were his own fumbles that he recovered. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he has the record for most fumble recoveries by a Giant. So congratulations to Phil for having that particular record. Okay, and so now I want to show you next week's question. Next week's trivia question is the first black player to be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame was a New York Giant. He was also the first black player to ever play for the Giants. Who was he? So again, the first black player to ever be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame was a former New York Giant. And that player was also the first black player to be on the New York Giants. And I'm asking you who he was. Okay, so that's this week's trivia question. And now I want to try to introduce a new concept, something that Mazo's been actually asking me to do all season long, which is to take a look at a key play from a previous game. So I call it the play of the game, and I'm looking back at the Cincinnati game, and the key play to me was the Joe Burrow 47-yard touchdown run. Joe Burrow is not a running quarterback. He is nobody's, Lamar Jackson. He probably hasn't run for 47 yards on one play since middle school, maybe high school. Certainly not in college, certainly not in the pros. He is just not that guy. But for some reason, the Red Seas parted, and he saw nothing but land in front of him, and he took off, and he wound up 47 yards later in the end zone with a touchdown. And I think that was the key play to the game. I think there were obviously other key plays, including a couple of missed field goals, et cetera, and a terrible interception by Danny Jones on our part. Don't get me started. But the fact is that 47-yard touchdown run, certainly at that point in the game, was a huge part of the game and maybe the most important part of it. So we're going to take a look at that real quick. I have that queued up and ready to go. So first of all, they're at the 47. You see we're in two high safeties. And fairly quickly you see that their receivers are flowing to the defensive right. But our safety, as you saw me just point to Tyler Nubin, number 31, comes crashing down for reasons I can't quite fathom. I have no idea why. So here he is just sprinting down to the line of scrimmage, presumably to cover no one. I mean, yes, number 83, the tight end has stayed in to pass block, but he stayed in the pass block. So I don't understand why we need Tyler Nubin to come this far downfield. And as you see, that leaves Jason Pinnock back single high. And as the receivers flow to the defense's right, offense's left, he, of course, drifts over there as well. And at this point, you can already see that Joe Burrow is noticing that there's nobody home on the right side. And he's already started to take off. And the defense, because we're mostly in man with single high safety over the top, starts all moving to his left. So when he runs to his right, there's nobody home. And unfortunately, the pass rush doesn't quite get home. And with the pass rush, not quite, there's Tyler Nubin still sprinting to sort of line of scrimmage, still not covering anybody, but still taking himself out of the play and leaving Jason Pinnock back by himself in the deep safety role. That leaves a huge gap along the right half of the field. And there goes Joe Burrow. And right now, he's at the line of scrimmage. The line of scrimmage was the 47. He's at the line of scrimmage now, and there's no one home, no one in front of him. And at this point, there's Tyler Nubin saying, oh, my bad. Instead of covering the tight end number 83, who's in the backfield pass blocking, maybe I should have stayed back and helped out my other safety, Jason Pinnock. But he didn't. And alas, look at all that green grass, not grass, but green land in front of Joe Burrow, and he takes off. And at this point, finally, Jason Pinnock turns around and says, oh, he's running, he's not throwing. Now, why it took him so long to notice that, I have no idea, because, again, the line of scrimmage is 47. Joe Burrow has been gone for a while. But at this point, Jason Pinnock realizes what's going on, breaks down and starts to chase Joe Burrow, but it's too late. And you see he doesn't get there quite in time, and Joe Burrow jumps into the end zone just ahead of him for a touchdown. So to me, that was the key play of the game. I blame mostly Tyler Nubin and or the defensive call. I don't know what the call was or who made that call, but having him sprint up to the line of scrimmage to cover no one and leave Jason Pinnock in single high safety, that I don't quite get that. I don't understand that at all. And then having Isaiah Simmons, who also was chasing from behind, instead of spying Joe Burrow, actually rushing and getting himself caught up in the wash and not able to get back was also a problem. So as you can see, we left way too much unprotected turf for any quarterback, even one who's not particularly mobile like Joe Burrow is. So that to me is my key play of the game. I just wanted to share that with you. So again, Week 7 NFC East report, trivia questions, and now play of the game. That's going to be our format moving forward for the NFC East report weekly report. Again, Clay from Brooklyn, football with the fellas, all about Big Blue. Love to hear what you think about what I thought about that play and about the NFC East report. Please stay with us, like, subscribe, comment, and I'm out.